I know I said I wasn't going to speak again, but after listening to some of my colleagues, I just wanted to make a couple more brief comments. I appreciated your co-chair's comments. She mentioned that this statement should be a fair explanation. She also said it should be a clear way for voters to understand in our comments. And that's what I've been saying throughout this entire process. So I'm glad to see that she's in agreement there. And I just want the members of the committee to sit back for a second and think to themselves, what is the purpose of having explanatory text? I mean, why does this provision even exist in our laws? And I think it's pretty obvious. The reason for it is because we want to make sure that voters have access to additional information beyond the question so that they can make an informed decision. With respect to the commentary that I'm hearing from Mr. Adams, and I think he's completely doing his job to the best of his ability, and he's completely on point, except that I think there's something lost in the translation here, which is that the bill was a partisan document. Okay, you cannot start with a partisan document and then regurgitate that partisan document using similar language without taking into consideration other content and purpose that may be generated by that legislation and not end up with a partisan result. And I'm just going to point out that when this vote is taken today and it falls on party lines, number one, it'll be another instance of another election bill that goes down on a party line vote, which should never happen, in my opinion. We should at least agree to the rules of the game. But it's also proof, unmistakable proof that the statement of text, the explanatory statement, is partisan. Because if it wasn't partisan, we would all agree to it. Now, I don't fault Mr. Adams or OLR. They're doing their best at interpreting 230A. Maybe the problem is with 230A. But I will say that the purpose of the bill is not even listed in this explanatory statement. I mean, the pro argument statement of purpose would be that this is a convenience to voters. I mean, that's what was argued. And that is, without question, the purpose of the legislation from the people that voted for it. And that isn't mentioned anywhere in the language that's here. And I think that's a mistake. People should be provided the information. Say, you know, you have this question before you on the ballot because you have to make a decision about whether or not you believe the added convenience of having early voting outweighs the potential for problems or additional cost or ballot security or whatever the con opinion is based on this passing. And it's true that much of that is not going to appear in the language of the bill. But we have all kinds of bills come through the legislature that you might not be able to tell what the ramifications are from, you know, a bill that simply changes a may to a shall or something. The purpose of this legislation is different from what the statement of text says. The content is, I think, more closely aligned. And I think the focus on content is what gets in the way of really providing the objective truth to the voter. That's all. So I don't want to ramble on. I just wanted to end with that statement that, you know, we include all of this content about the seals and things like that, but convenience is not mentioned. And that is the number one purpose of the legislation. And that you cannot start with a partisan document and write it using the same terms and end up without a partisan document. You've got to read between the lines to state the purpose. And if you truly want a fair explanation, as Senator Flexer pointed out, and so do I think you've got to make some kind of effort to tell both sides of the story so that voters can really make an informed choice. And I'll just leave it with that. And I hope that others might at least agree with me that we should look at 230A next time. Maybe simply changing it to require a unanimous vote of the GAE committee. Because until you have a unanimous vote that what is put before those voters is objective, it's not. It's going to be a partisan result. And thank you for your indulgence for a second time, Mr. Chairman.